The season wasn't supposed to look like this, and Sam Darnold knows it better than anyone. Because standing here, one win away from a Super Bowl showdown, wasn't part of the league's script for him, and definitely wasn't part of the narrative written about his career just a few years ago. Yet here he is, battered, bruised, and finally believed in, staring down the biggest moment of his football life. And what makes this moment hit harder is that it almost didn't happen at all. When the Seahawks closed out that 31-27 win over the Rams, the stadium noise told one story, but Darnold's body told another. This wasn't just a quarterback celebrating a playoff victory. This was a player who had been quietly fighting something much bigger than the defense in front of him. Pain, doubt, and the weight of a career that had always felt like it was one mistake away from being labeled a failure. Sam Darnold didn't hide from it after the game. He didn't spin it. He didn't sugarcoat it. Instead, he did something he hasn't always been allowed to do in the NFL. He told the truth. And that honesty is exactly why this moment feels different. For weeks, whispers followed him around Seattle's practice facility. Reduced reps, limited throws. Backup quarterback Drew Lock quietly taking snaps that normally belonged to the starter. For most quarterbacks, that's a red flag. For Sam Darnold, it was another chapter in a career defined by uncertainty. But when asked if the limited practice time was hurting his timing or rhythm, Darnold didn't blink. He didn't hesitate. He didn't sound like a man trying to convince himself. He sounded like someone who had already made peace with the situation. He talked about the middle of the season, weeks 9 or 10, when the injury might have been a bigger problem. He talked about the countless reps built over training camp, OTAs, and months of work that don't show up on a stat sheet. And most importantly, he talked like a quarterback who finally trusts his preparation. That confidence didn't come from nowhere. It came from surviving the part of the season that nearly broke him. Sam Darnold entered this year healthy, free, and quietly optimistic. For the first time in a long time, his body wasn't betraying him. His mechanics were clean. His reads were decisive. And his role in Seattle's offense felt defined. But football has a cruel way of reminding players how fragile everything is. 2 days before the divisional matchup against the 49ers, everything changed. An oblique injury. Sudden, painful, and terrifyingly timed. The kind of injury that doesn't just limit throws, but messes with confidence. The kind that makes every rotation of your torso feel like a gamble. Seattle responded cautiously. Limited practices. No injury designation before game day, but plenty of quiet concern behind closed doors. The coaching staff split reps between Darnold and Drew Lock. Deep throws were restricted. Short and intermediate routes became the focus. The plan wasn't about dominance. It was about survival. And in that 41-6 win over San Francisco, Sam Darnold did exactly what the moment required. He didn't force anything. He didn't chase highlight plays. He threw for 124 yards and a touchdown, made just 17 passes, and handed the game over once the lead was secure. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. But it was smart. That game wasn't about proving critics wrong. It was about proving to himself that he could still lead a team, even when his body wasn't at full strength. Fast forward to the Rams game, and the conversation shifted. This time, Darnold didn't just manage the game. He owned it. Nearly 350 passing yards. 3 touchdowns. Commanding the offense with a calm that Seattle fans hadn't seen from him before. This wasn't a quarterback protecting an injury. This was a quarterback playing through it. After the game, he described the moment as almost poetic. And that word matters. Because poetry isn't about perfection. It's about meaning. And for Sam Darnold, playing through pain after an injury-free season felt like a reminder of everything he'd endured to get here. But there's a twist to this story that makes the upcoming Super Bowl matchup even heavier. The New England Patriots. For most quarterbacks, the Patriots are just another opponent. For Sam Darnold, they represent a chapter of his career that never fully closed. A symbol of the standard he was measured against and often fell short of. His history against New England hasn't been kind. Games that slipped away. Defenses that exposed weaknesses. Moments that fed the narrative that he wasn't the guy. Now, fate has placed him right back in that spotlight. Only this time, the context is different. The stakes are higher. And the man under center isn't the same quarterback he was back then. This version of Sam Darnold has lived through the criticism. He's been traded, doubted, written off, and quietly replaced more than once. He's heard the jokes. He's read the headlines. And he's felt the loneliness that comes with being labeled a disappointment before your career even has time to breathe. What makes this run special isn't just the stats. It's the resilience. It's the way Darnold speaks about his teammates, about accumulated reps, about trust built over time. Those aren't the words of someone clinging to a job. Those are the words of someone who finally belongs. And the locker room feels it. Teammates see a quarterback who doesn't panic when things get uncomfortable. Coaches see a leader who understands when to push and when to protect the team. Fans see something even more powerful. Hope.as Seattle prepares for the Super Bowl. The injury questions haven't completely disappeared. Oblique injuries don't magically vanish. Pain management becomes part of the routine. But Darnold's confidence hasn't wavered. And that might be the most dangerous thing about him right now. Because confidence changes how a quarterback sees the field. It slows the game down. It turns tight windows into opportunities. And it makes defenses hesitate just long enough for plays to break open. The Patriots are coming with history, discipline, and a reputation for breaking quarterbacks in moments like this. They've done it before. They've built dynasties on it. But this isn't the same Sam Darnold they faced in the past. This is a quarterback who has already survived the worst chapters of his career. And here's the question that hangs over everything. If Sam Darnold can beat his body, his past, and the narrative that's followed him since his first NFL snap, what happens next? Because a Super Bowl doesn't just crown a champion. It rewrites legacies. It changes how careers are remembered. It silences debates and creates new ones. Win or lose, Sam Darnold has already altered the conversation. He's gone from cautionary tale to comeback story, from uncertainty to belief. And that transformation didn't happen overnight. It happened in quiet moments, in limited practices, in painful throws, and in honest answers after games that meant everything. Now the final chapter is waiting to be written. And it's happening on the biggest stage football has to offer. So here's what I want to know from you. If Sam Darnold leads the Seahawks past the Patriots and lifts that Lombardi trophy, does this become the greatest redemption arc by a quarterback in modern NFL history? Or is there still something left to prove? Drop your take in the comments because this debate is just getting started. And that's where this story stops being just about football and starts becoming something heavier. Because pressure like this doesn't just test your arm strength. It tests your identity. Sam Darnold has been living under a microscope since the moment he entered the league. Every throw dissected. Every mistake magnified. Every loss turned into a referendum on whether he was ever worthy of being a franchise quarterback. And when things went wrong early in his career, the label stuck. Bust. Placeholder. Bridge quarterback. Those words don't disappear. Players hear them. They feel them. And for some, they become permanent. But what we're watching right now in Seattle doesn't look like a placeholder. It looks like a man who finally understands who he is as a quarterback. And maybe more importantly, who he doesn't need to be anymore. This version of Darnold isn't chasing perfection. He's chasing control. Control of the huddle. Control of the moment. Control of his own story. And that matters against a team like New England. Because the Patriots don't just beat you with talent. They beat you by forcing you to question yourself. They disguise coverages. They bait quarterbacks into throws they've made 100 times before. They wait for impatience. For ego. For doubt. In the past, those were traps Sam Darnold sometimes fell into. He tried to do too much. He tried to be the hero. And against disciplined defenses, that usually ends one way. But watch how he's played this postseason. The ball comes out on time. Checkdowns aren't treated like failures. Third downs aren't forced into miracles. That's not fear. That's maturity. And that maturity was forged through struggle. Playing through an oblique injury doesn't just hurt physically. It messes with your mechanics, your torque, your confidence stepping into throws. Every pass becomes a calculation. Can I rotate fully? Will this aggravate it? Can I survive another hit? Quarterbacks rarely talk about that part publicly. But Darnold did. And that honesty signals something important. He's not hiding anymore. He's not pretending to be invincible. He's embracing the reality of the position, that's leadership. Seattle's coaching staff sees it. That's why they trusted him to finish the Rams game. That's why they adjusted the practice plan instead of panicking. And that's why the locker room rallies behind him. Players can feel when a quarterback is authentic. When he's steady. When he's not putting on a front. And now the Super Bowl looms. This is the game that young Sam Darnold probably dreamed about. The clean dream. The one where everything goes according to plan. But this version of the Super Bowl is different. This one comes with scars, with context, with history, and maybe that's what makes it dangerous for New England. Because desperation can break a quarterback. But peace can elevate one. Sam Darnold doesn't sound desperate. He sounds settled. He sounds like someone who understands that this moment doesn't define his worth, but could define his legacy. That distinction changes how you play. If he struggles, he's been here before. If he succeeds, he changes everything. And that freedom is rare on this stage. Think about what a Super Bowl win would mean. Not just for Seattle. For him, it would force the league to reevaluate how quickly it gives up on quarterbacks. It would challenge the idea that early career failure is permanent. It would remind fans and front offices that development isn't linear. And it would cement Sam Darnold as one of the most unlikely comeback stories the NFL has seen in years. But here's the other side of it. If things go wrong, if the Patriots' defense finds a way to exploit the injury, if the pressure overwhelms him, the narrative machine will be ready. Waiting. Loaded. That's the risk. That's the reality. And yet, Darnold keeps walking forward. That's what separates this moment from all the others. He isn't running from expectations. He's meeting them head-on. Pain and all, the Seahawks don't need him to be flawless. They need him to be himself. The version that trusts his preparation. The version that leans on his teammates. The version that understands when to strike and when to survive. Because Super Bowls aren't won by highlight reels alone. They're won by decisions. By patience. By quarterbacks who don't blink when the game tightens. And right now, Sam Darnold looks like he's done blinking. So when kickoff arrives, and the lights are brighter than they've ever been, remember this wasn't supposed to be his moment. It was supposed to belong to someone else. Someone safer. Someone easier to believe in. But football doesn't care about expectations. It cares about who's ready when the moment arrives. And whether this ends in confetti or questions, one thing is already clear. Sam Darnold didn't run from his story. He confronted it. He owned it. And he carried it all the way to the biggest game of his life. Now the only thing left is the result. So let me ask you this. If you're the Seahawks, do you trust Sam Darnold completely in this moment? Or is there still doubt lingering when the pressure peaks? Let me know in the comments. Hotspot NFL is watching this story unfold with you. And this one is far from over.